Hello. My name is Raymond Karchevsky, and I am a living Christ. The message I have for you today is the taking back of America, the Christ way. It arises from a comment I received from a rather patriotic gal who calls herself Josie Wales. She starts by saying, "Greetings, Ray, my good man. The poor lost sheep need our help, but they just have no clue. They are just about impossible to reach. But we have to love them anyway, even if they get us all killed. Sheesh." My response to Josie is this. "Hello, Josie. Good to hear from you. I hate to be a stick in the mud, but the solution to all of these problems has been given to the American people on a silver platter. It has been given to all Americans who are now suffering under the boot of tyranny of the satanic courts of these United States, because they lack the initiative to correct their present slave status as 14th Amendment citizens, while they willfully and they voluntarily subject themselves to the jurisdiction of the federal government as corporate persons." It's quite a bit of difference between the people and persons in the legal sense. And therein lies the source of all tyranny. But the upside of it is it's all fiction, and therefore cannot be true. You see, I just finished listening to an interview of Ammon Bundy on the Pete Santilli show. Now, Ammon's father, Cliven, used the same uh, legal demands that I used in refusing to accept the court's sentencing in two separate trials by merely demanding that the courts prove jurisdiction over this living, breathing, flesh and blood man. Not a person, but a man. That's where it all fell apart for the courts. When they refused to answer that question in writing as their law demands, that the fictional court had any jurisdiction over living men and women, it all fell apart. The fact is, they could not, they have not, to the present day, and they shall not answer that question. You see, 13 years have passed. Many UCC liens have been placed upon these government officials, these judges, the governor of the state of Oregon has been noticed, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, the District Attorney of Josephine County, sheriffs of Josephine County in two administrations, and the present sheriff have all been noticed, and they all refuse to answer that question of jurisdiction. Why? Because if they did, their whole house of cards, the illusion of power that allow them to tyrannize living people, would come to an end. Their whole house of cards would come tumbling down, and they would be exposed for the frauds that they are. When that happened, there will be freedom once again in America. And we, the people, shall not be suffering from the imposed tyranny placed upon us by our public servants, people who we hire and therefore can fire. Cliven Bundy knew this. I knew this. Millions and millions of people have been following these issues throughout the years, and yet the shoe has not dropped. It has not fallen into place, the power of the people. And the government, which rules them by their consent, remove that consent and what happens? It's obvious. There is no need to fight government. Just pull the fraudulent rug out from under them and watch what happens. The truth, the undeniable truth, is that no fiction has any power over the living. When living men and women give up their status as living beings, then they voluntarily give up to become fictional persons based in dead ideas that have no life to them. And they realize that through birth certification, they have been made into just that, the fictional person, subject to the jurisdiction of the fictional government. That is the satanic wool pulled over the eyes of the American people. That is the satanic fiction of power over one man over another, all through an idea, an illusion. It's time to wake up and not allow these illusions to rule us. You see, when living men and women give up their status as fictional people, their whole scenario of slavery disintegrates because it's all an illusion. And yet they fuel that illusion with their consent, with their money, their wealth, and then they begin to wonder why their lives have fallen apart, why they have consented to a life that rules them as slaves and not the sovereigns they truly are. The sovereign is the creator of government, not its slave. Now, all of the procedures that have been given to Americans by this living Christ over the internet to return to their proper status as sovereigns is outlined on my two websites, arkenterprises.com and lisarayenterprises.com. But you see, they have to do this themselves. They cannot rely upon a nanny an expert, a counselor, a lawyer to do it for them. But that is their habitual dependence that has been created throughout the years of depending upon others to solve their worldly problems for them. You see, that is where the buck stops, right there. They must do it themselves and understand what they are doing. Can they do it? It remains to be seen. I have to ask all of you who are watching this video, does this sound like a harsh indictment of the American people? Well, to you I say, try talking about this for 20 years and see what comes out from the mouths of enslaved ignoramuses, those who will attack the simple truth in the defense of maintaining their chains of slavery. You see, if Americans had any intelligence left in their satanically conditioned intellects, they would take the action that this living Christ took, and Cliven Bundy took, in refusing to voluntarily place themselves at the mercy of the jurisdictional hands of the federal and state governments, which are merely fictions, where jurisdiction, the fictional jurisdiction, applies only to other created fictions, government-created fictions, whom are called persons. These persons are identified by the name on the birth certificates in all legal papers, transactions, where their name is spelled in all capital letters. This is the straw man, the juristic person, the one who stood trial in those two trials. It did not apply to this living man. It applied to a dead fictional person who the courts tried to tie to this living man. You see, living people, men and women, must waive their rights to become voting citizens of the corporation of these United States, spelled in all capital letters. That is where all the satanic chicanery takes place. And all the wars, all the misdistribution of wealth, which creates problems between the haves and the have-nots, takes place. This has been going on since the beginning of time. You see, and civilized men and women have not caught on to it as yet. It's still, the simplicity of this all completely eludes them. Well, I, this living Christ, have demonstrated the power of you, the living man and woman, have over the co-creation of your own life. You are not slaves, you are sovereigns. Act like it. The satanic power of this country could be brought down without firing a single shot in violent revolution. You see, all that must be realized is that it is a sad state of affairs when servants publicly hired servants of the people make the rules, the fictional rules, which control the minds, the intellectual mind of civilized men who think themselves to be slaves, but are really the masters over government. Yes, I have to ask the question, how dumb is the American public? Hell, isn't it? What are you going to do about it? For any real change, any real peace in your lives will come from your action, not from your idle talk. Pay attention closely to what's going on in Eastern Oregon, for that has been the point where action, idle talk has been put away. The years and years of idle speculation that is found in slaves. They dream of freedom, but they cannot act upon it. Well, you see, the time for idle talk is over, and living people like Ammon Bundy and his group have taken action, have brought it to the point where the fictional government's authority is being questioned, being challenged. They require your support. If you want to support a fictional, satanically ruled government, go right ahead, and you shall reap what you have sown in the form of a new world satanic order. Wake up, take action in your own lives by boycotting the fictional government. Strip away their assumed power over you, because they have none aside from your own consent. But they have no jurisdiction over living men and women, and that's who you really are, unless you desire not to be. Give us time to grow up spiritually and usher in the second coming Christ, the second coming of Christ consciousness. For that is the nature of peace on earth, heaven on earth. But it shall not come without your ability to lend your energy to it. Thank you for your time.